Tell me when. Hello, we wanted to address today some things that were going on in Major League Baseball heading into the postseason. As we know, there was a home run chase for the American League record. We know that the Major League record was set by Barry Bonds. We're talking about a season home runs record right now. In 2001, he hit 73 homers. And we know that Hank Aaron, now Barry Bonds in 2000, was it 7, 8, 9? He broke Hank Aaron's home run record, and he finished with 762. Hank in 1974, he passed Babe Ruth's record. Now, what's significant about this is Hank, when he passed that record, Hank Aaron was making, I can't remember, maybe $125,000 a year, someone thereabouts. He got a raise, and then he got a raise where he was making $250,000 a year. That puts it in perspective in terms of the pay schedules that they're getting. Of course, back then there was no internet, there was no cable even, so there was a lot less advertisement dollars going into the league. Today it's a serious big money stake. And the point is that Aaron Judge with the Yankees is going into a contract year this year. This was his last year. The Yankees underfunded him. They offered him some money, but it wasn't much compared to what his worth is. They don't want to pay him the same money they're paying Mike Trout, who's getting $500 million, if I'm not mistaken, $500 million. Now, Trout's a great player, but at the same time, Trout has never been in a World Series. He did dismal in the one playoff that he was in, like Ted Williams did in the '46 World Series, did dismal, hit 200-something. And the point is that Judge should be getting north of $500 million. They don't want to pay him. They offered him like 200-some million or whatever. They don't want to pay the man, but he's establishing all these records. Now, Babe Ruth hit 59 homers in 1921, playing up in Harlem at the Polo Grounds when the Yankees shared the stadium with the New York Giants. Then they built Yankee Stadium in 1923. By 1927, Babe Ruth hit 60 homers. Now let's not, and then of course in Boston, he led the league in home runs in 1919, the last year of the dead ball era. But let's not forget, Boston, Ruth was a left-handed hitter. The foul line down the right field line when he pulls the ball is 302 feet in Boston. It still is in Fenway Park. In the old Polo Grounds, it was only 250-something, if I remember correctly. It's a high school dimension down the right field line. Left field was 315. It's a little more even-handed with other ballparks. But this 250, that's how Mel Ott got in the Hall of Fame, just hitting pop flies that went over the wall. That would have been an out in every other ballpark. This is how Ruth was hitting all these home runs. Then in the original Yankee Stadium, the right field line was 296. I'm telling you, my college at University of Hawaii had a longer field than that down the line. This is very generous. But these are some of these old, these ballparks from the dead ball era. That's what that was. So we can't fault him for the era he played in, but we know his records were a little bit skewed on that level. Hank Aaron played in the 50s, in the 60s, 70s. He played in more modern stadiums with better dimensions against the best pitching. I mean, Ruth didn't play against the best pitchers, Smokey Joe Williams, Leroy Satchel Paige, or even Bullet Joe Rogan, who played on the Monarchs with Paige and was said to have thrown harder than Satchel Paige. But the only difference was Paige had that pinpoint control, and Paige still threw well over 100 miles an hour. Dizzy Dean, Walter Johnson, what's his name, Bob Feller, they all said Paige was the best pitcher they ever saw. I'll go with their opinions over anyone else's because, you know, other people just try to have an opinion and to feel better about themselves. The best home run hitter was Hank Aaron. Now, if you go to Negro Leagues, obviously in 1936, Josh Gibson hit 82 home runs. And you had other home run hitters, Oscar Charleston. I mean, we can go down the list. But the bottom line is this. The bottom line is Hank Aaron was legitimate. Barry Bonds has a stain on his name because of his participation with steroids, alleged participation with steroids. Barry Bonds had 400 homers and 400 stolen bases at the end of the 98 season, which is the year that McGwire and Sosa, McGwire had 70 homers, Sosa 66 with the Cubs, and McGwire with the St. Louis Cardinals. And because of that, when Bonds left Pittsburgh, went to San Francisco, people alleged he started taking steroids at that point because he understood all of what he did, 400 homers, 400 stolen bases, which is phenomenal Hall of Fame numbers, still didn't get him the recognition he deserved. And Barry Bonds was hitting line drive. He was so locked in at one point, he was hitting nothing but line drives every time. He could barely strike out. Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle led the American League each 5 different times in strikeouts. You cannot be a great hitter if you lead the league in strikeouts. 5 times each. And then, of course, Babe Ruth was on the leaderboard in strikeouts many times. And when he pitched in the dead ball era. That's great. But in the live ball era, he couldn't pitch. After 1920 was the live ball era when he went to the Yankees. He won World Series, plural, with Boston, but he couldn't repeat that with the Yankees. They didn't even let him pitch but a few times. So now you got Judge. Roger Maris in 1961 hit 61 homers, but they put an asterisk by his name. Ford Frick, the MLB commissioner, because he was a friend of Roof's. They didn't want to see Roof's record get broken by someone they didn't think was a good player. And they put an asterisk by his name because he hit his 61st homer on the last day of the season. In 1927, they played 154 games. But in 1961, they were up to the modern-day schedule of 162 games. Judge hit his 60th homer on his 148th game. He legitimately was with Roof, no problem, and in a better era. Roof wouldn't have did that in this era. And now, here's the thing. You can't put an asterisk by Judge's name now. And then he hit his 61st homer a couple days before the end of the season. But Judge could have also won the Triple Crown. They benched him after he hit that home run with that game and the last game to play in Texas. He could have won the Triple Crown, the first Yankee to do so since 1962 when Mickey Mantle did it. And the point is, they didn't want him to do that in his contract year. Now, I know they're going to say, we didn't want him to get hurt, take a risk on him getting hurt for the playoffs. That's great. You sound like the White Sox benching Eddie Cicotte for 2 weeks before the 1919 World Series because they didn't want to pay him the bonus for winning 30 games. He won 29 games. That's ridiculous. Pay Aaron Judge. He should have won the Triple Crown. He did win the home run title. He deserves to get that $500 million or north of that. That's what he deserves. He's the best player in the league, and he plays center field, right field. He's a great player. Pay that brother. And all these are brothers who did this. Don't forget that also. They don't like to say that, but that's the truth. We'll be back with some more insight later on.